Alright, hello all you crazy people out there, my name is Dragonite, and welcome to a video on how to do cutscenes in GameMaker. Or at least one of the ways to do cutscenes in GameMaker. So, cutscenes in games are a little bit of a tricky business because everybody's game system is going to be different. And therefore everybody's cutscene implementation is also going to be a little bit different. And with that said, this is going to be a video covering the method that I've been using for the past 2 or 3 years. And it's been working pretty well for me. So hopefully, at the very least, it'll be a little bit of a jumping off point for people watching this who want to know how to make their cutscenes in their games. Now, I should go over some ground rules. First, this is going to work in GameMaker Studio 1, which you can see I am using right now, or GameMaker Studio 2, it does not matter. This exact implementation will not work in GameMaker 8. You'll have to do a little bit of tweaking to get it working in GameMaker 8. And with that said, you probably shouldn't be using GM8 anyway, unless it's for school or something. The second ground rule is that this is going to be a bit of an advanced subject. I do expect people watching this to have a thorough understanding of how GameMaker works, how programming works, how things like scripts and calling scripts and arrays and DS lists work. I've made plenty of videos on those subjects. Other people have made plenty of videos on those subjects. I'll leave a few helpful links in the description and in the card that should be popping up on this corner of the screen right now. Third and last, this is going to be using the basic NPC engine that I made a video on a while ago. You can see I have on the screen right now. I walk around with the squares. I can talk to the blocks. This is a sentence. This is another sentence with a spelling error. And this is an empty text box. I will be using this as my base. And if you want to download this base project, I will leave the link to it in the description of this video. If you still have it on hand from when I made the original NPC video, that's great. Anyway, the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the NPC object, go into the create event. I have a couple variables declared, and I'm going to declare a few more. First, scene equals ds list create. Second, scene index equals -1. If you're thinking ahead, you can probably envision what these do. We're going to be creating basically a collection of commands, scripts to execute, collecting them in the scene list, and we're going to be accessing specific entries in that list with scene index. So next, I'm going to go into the instance creation code for this one NPC here. I'm going to delete everything in it because I don't need it. And I'm going to say ds list add scene args open parentheses scr lock close parentheses twice. And these are two functions that haven't been declared yet, two scripts that haven't been declared yet, and that's all right. I'm going to do that in here. First, args. This is going to be a rather interesting function because it's going to take as many arguments as you want, and it's going to concatenate them all into a single array. So I'm going to say var array, and I'm going to create a for loop. I equals 0, I is less than argument count, I plus plus, and I'm going to say array of I is equal to argument of I. And I'm going to lastly return the array. I almost actually typed the array instead of just array, and that would have been bad. Anyway, if you can't see what's going on here, this is just taking all of the arguments in the argument array, all of the arguments that you pass to args, in this case just one that says scr_unlock, and it's populating an array, this array, with those values, and it's returning those values. And this is so that you can basically turn an array of arguments into a single object that can be dropped onto the end of a DS list. And before people start yelling at me in the comments telling me that it's fast to initialize arrays from top to bottom instead of bottom to top, I know. I want to write legible code here. I don't want to write fast code. I want to write legible code. Okay, I can close out of this. The next thing that I want to do is create scr_lock. Normally, and this is something that GameMaker gurus can get very, very upset at me in the comments later for, but normally, as you can see with args, I do not like prefixing my scripts with scr_ because I don't like the extra typing. But in the case of cutscene scripts, I like them to look visually different from the rest of the scripts in my game. So I do prefix them with scr_. You can do whatever you want as long as they're named consistently and you can read them. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I've created a subfolder called scripts, which is a little funny because it itself is within a folder called scripts. And I'm going to create scr_lock. And inside scr_lock, I'm going to say free equals false. And this is going to be the exact same thing that is happening in the NPC press space event. I'm going to comment out everything within this if statement, the second if statement, the collision point x, x, y, y, NPC false and false. And I'm going to say instead, I'm going to be saving some of this for later. Cutscene start. That is not the right punctuation. Cutscene start. And cutscene start is going to be another script here. Again, I'm not prefixing it with str underscore. You can if you want to. And inside this, I'm going to say scene index equals -1. It's the same code that's in the create event of the NPC. Scene index equals -1. But just for the sake of making absolutely certain that everything has the value that I want it to, I'm just declaring it twice. And next, cutscene cut scene continue. And this is a similar script to cutscene start that I'm going to say. And I'm going to create this and cutscene. Why can't I spell today? My fingers aren't even cold or anything, so it's not like I should be having trouble hitting the keys on the keyboard. Inside cutscene continue. Scene index plus equals 1. You could say scene index plus scene index, scene index equals scene index plus 1. It doesn't matter as long as it increments by 1. As long as it goes up by 1. And next, I'm going to say if scene index is less than ds list size cutscene. No, it's just scene. I really need to get in the habit of naming my variables better. Anyway, if scene index is less than scene, we're going to say var arguments equals ds list find value scene and scene index. So we're going to be taking whatever index in the list we're up to in scene index. So when we first launch the cutscene, it's going to say cutscene start. It's going to set scene index to 0. It's going to call cutscene continue. It's going to add 1 to that, so scene index is 0. And it's going to find the zeroth is a very funny word, but it's going to find the 0th element in the list of scene, which happens to be, if you go back to the creation code, the array that was returned by args, which is basically an array of 1 element long, and it's going to contain strlock. And strlock is going to be the script that we want to execute. So finally, I'm going to say script execute arguments of 0, and I'm going to pass it the original array, and I will explain why I do that in a minute. Is this actually going to let me do this? I'm going to run the game and see if this lets me do this. Okay, so I need a curly brace somewhere. That's better. I missed one of the curly braces. Let me try that again. I appreciate how quickly GameMaker decides to show me the compile errors. Anyway, I can walk around, I can talk to this guy, and I am now locked. If you can't see what's going on, that's fine. I'll do my best to explain it. So I've already explained that arguments is taking the array that's inside the list at whatever position scene index dictates. And what we're doing here is executing that script. And the 0th, there I go saying it again, the 0th element in that array is going to be a script. And the script is going to be strlock. And strlock basically sets free to false. And free, if you recall, is the variable that lets the player walk around freely. So once that is set to false, the player can no longer move. And I'll just pass the arguments array for good measure. I'll explain why I do that later. It does turn out to be important, don't worry. So what I have done is essentially all of this in many more lines of code in many different places in the code, which would normally sound like a bad thing. Except this is actually very powerful because it allows you to do any number of different things in any order. For example, if I were to create another script, this is str_talk. I need to look at my notes on my other screen here to make sure that I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to the creation code of this instance, and I'm going to say, oops, that's the wrong instance, isn't it? What happened to my creation code? I know there was creation code in there. I didn't lose it, did I? I had better not have lost that. I just lost my creation code. Okay, excuse me. Let me go and write this out again. Okay. Anyway, ds list add scene args scr talk. And this can work, but you'll notice that at the beginning of this tutorial, I deleted the array of text that I wanted the NPC to draw on the screen at the various points in the game. And now there is no way for the game to know what I want to say. So I'm going to add a second argument to the arg script. Arguments to the arg script. Arguments to the arg script. That is not a statement that I can say fast. And this is going to be, this is a sentence, period. So this is going to be a second argument. And now, if I go back to scr talk, I can say draw equals true, text equals arguments of 1, t equals 0. This will not work because arguments is not a variable that has been defined yet, so I can say var arguments equals argument 0. And what this is going to do is, remembering scr continue, where I passed the arguments array to the script that was being executed, this is going to come in handy again, because there are extra arguments appended to the end of this array after the index 0, which is the script that you're executing. And those extra arguments can contain things like the text that you want to draw. So I'm going to go into NPC, I'm going to go into the draw event, and I'm going to need to, I think, change a few things. Instead of saying text of index line, I'm just going to say text because it's a single variable, it's not an array. Okay. Oops. Go. Stop. Punctuation. Thank you. And now, when I run the game, nothing is actually going to happen because I have not told an scr lock the game to continue yet. So in here, at the bottom of scr lock, I can call cutscene continue. Someone is really having fun with Danganronpa today. God. He's been doing that for a couple days. I don't know if the game is having trouble launching or something like that. Anyway, what this is going to do is it's going to call the cutscene continue, which, if you remember, increments the scene index value, gets the arguments out of the list, and executes the script and those arguments. And that is going to include the talk variable, the talk script, and the text that is supposed to be drawn with it. So if I can go and run the game again, I'm going to come over here, and this is a sentence. Congratulations! Text has appeared on the screen. However, nothing is actually, this is keeping repeating because of a detail that I will get to in a minute. You can't get out of that. So, I'm going to need to do a few things. First, cutscene continue. And I'm going to go back. There we go again. Danganronpa, Singe, are you okay? I'm going to go copy this and paste this. And instead of saying scr_lock, I'm going to say scr_unlock. And scr_unlock, I'm sure that everybody still watching this can figure out what this is going to do. But instead of setting free to false, free is going to be equal to true. And the player should be able to move again. However, because there are no constraints on this, the cutscene is going to keep starting over every single time I hit the spacebar. And instead of being able to move around, I am able to move around, but the text isn't going away. And if I were to keep getting close to this guy and hitting the spacebar, it's going to restart. That is because I actually made a mistake just a minute ago. You do not want an scr talk continue to happen, because you want continue to happen in a slightly different place in code. And that different place in code is going to be in here. So first, this should only happen if scene index is equal to -1, and scene index equals -1. No semicolon, I said. Let me add a space there. Not there, there. So cutscene start is only going to be called if scene index is equal to -1. In other words, if there is no cutscene currently playing. And else, we can have a few things happen. If draw is equal to true, then that means there is already text on the screen and you want some things to happen. I'm going to say draw equals false and cutscene continue. And this is going to only cause the game to continue the cutscene if there is text being currently drawn on the screen and you hit the spacebar. So this is a sentence. I can't move around because I'm locked into place. I hit the spacebar and I am free to move again. And this is wonderful. This is the basis of the text engine. I need to go and... I can't talk to you. Oh, brilliant. I forgot to do something else. I am very well organized in this video today. In cutscene continue, we need an else clause on here. Else, if scene index is equal to the length of the scene list, we're going to say scene index, once again, equals -1. And we're going to reset the variable to 0. And then when you come over here, hit the spacebar, scene index is going to be equal to 0. So it's going, oops, that is not supposed to happen. Scene index is going to be equal to 0, and you're going to say cutscene start. So I'm going to run the game. All right, this is a sentence. I can get up and move around. This is a sentence. I can get up and move around. Perfect. This is working the way I want it to. Now, this isn't really the end, because you can do any number of things, anything you want to, anything you can code, within the scripts that you pass over here to the DS list, the scene. You can say, for example, you might have noticed that the NPC wasn't turning to face me, because this line of code is commented out. I'm going to copy this, Control-C. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'm going to create another one of these scripts, scr face player, and I'm going to say image angle equals point direction xy player.x player.y, and I'm going to call cutscene continue at the end because we want the game to continue immediately. And now, after you lock the player, let's copy that and paste it. Let's say instead of scr lock twice, I can say scr face player. Now when I run the game, I can go over here. I can say stand down here, and I need to actually be facing you. And that does not look right. Why doesn't that look right? Oh, you know why that doesn't look right? It's because there's two NPCs on top of each other. I don't know why there's two NPCs on top of each other. That would explain why my creation code disappeared earlier. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, let me go and fix this and do this again. Alright, now let me run the game. That was very bizarre. I don't know how that happened. So when I run the game, and when I run over to maybe this direction, the NPC turns to face me. I say NPC, it's really not an NPC, it's really a square with an arrow in it. But anyway, this is a sentence. If you wanted to, you could implement anything that you want. You could implement, say, having the NPC walk in a certain direction. You could have them give you an item. You could have them show you a yes or no question. Anything you want, really. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of programming specific actions because that's really up to you, and I realistically can't cover every single action. But that is one way that it is possible to create cutscenes in GameMaker. Now, it may be helpful, and this isn't something that I really have any specific reason to say, but it may be helpful to say something like inside cutscene start, player the cutscene NPC equals ID, just so that the player knows exactly who's performing the given cutscene. I don't have any real good examples of this coming in handy, but it's something that you just might want to do so that you know if you have to have the player refer back to the NPC that's executing the cutscene, for example. You might want to wait to do that, and this is a way to do that. I'm trying to think of something that may be useful. Probably the simplest to implement. I kind of want to implement one more script action here, just to drive home the point of what you can do. But let's see. How about waiting? So if you don't want to use for example, freeze the game until a certain amount of time passes loop, you could say scr underscore wait, and this could be similar to scr talk in that it takes an argument. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, paste it, and instead of saying text and draw and t equals 0 and all those things, I can say alarm of 0 equals arguments of 1, and that is going to set the alarm 0 to however many frames are stored in argument 1, and I can say inside alarm 0, this can be another instance of cutscene continue. And to illustrate this, I will say go into creation code. I'm going to have another sentence. This is war words because I can't spell the word sentence. And this is going to be sandwiched, or this is going to be wrapped around ds list add scene args scr wait. How about 2 seconds? So 60 frames, or 120 frames if you're running at 60 frames per second. And once you hit the space bar for this is the sentence, you're going to wait 2 seconds. Then this is more words is going to pop up. Then you hit the space bar again. The player is going to unlock, and you can go on your merry way. So let's run the game. I don't know why I cut there. I'm just impatient, I guess. So I can come down here. I can say this is a sentence. Wait, I can't move. This more words without an verb. Okay. I can grammar. My English major brother is going to be very happy with me for that, I'm sure. But I think I've illustrated the point. This is a very powerful cutscene engine. I am personally happy with the way that this works. I hope that people watching this, thank you, dog. I hope that everybody watching this will be happy with this as well, and will be able to implement this quite easily and extend it on your own. But for now, I'm going to end this off. In the comments down below, any questions that you have, because I realize this is a complicated topic, let me know. If you're able to do anything fun, like having NPCs walk around, run around in circles, run laps around the player, something like that, let me know, and I will be happy to have a laugh with you. But for now, my name is Dragonite. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you all later.